When I try to kick him, I just put halfway, he feet in my face. And they stop there, I pose. They ask me, how is it? Good.
Sammo Hung, a martial arts legend in his own right, has kept a secret about Bruce Lee for decades, until now. What did Bruce Lee share with Sammo that he never told anyone? And why is Sammo finally breaking his silence after all these years? The truth is not what you think, and it will leave you absolutely stunned. Born in the busy streets of Hong Kong, Sammo Hung had a childhood filled with the lively yet chaotic world of local movies. His parents, who were wardrobe artists, left him with his grandparents, where the rich history of cinema was always present. His grandmother, the martial arts actress Chin Tsiang, and his grandfather, director Hung Chung-ho, were like big shadows in his life, shaping his future in ways he didn't fully get at the time. Hung started training at the China Drama Academy, a well-known Peking opera school, at just 9 years old. With Master Yu Jim Yuen supervising him, he began an arduous journey of discipline and artistry. Taking on the name Yuen Lung, he became the star of the Seven Little Fortunes. This performance group later included Jackie Chan. Their rivalry ignited a passion that fueled their careers. At the same time, Hung was drawn into the world of film and stunts, a surprising twist that changed everything. His early days were a mix of wins and losses. By age 14, an injury had him stuck in bed, turning the boy who used to dance gracefully into someone who was suddenly still. It was a heavy burden, and he struggled with gaining weight and figuring out his identity, but he had willpower in him. Embracing the nickname Sammo, inspired by a favorite cartoon character, he stepped back into the film industry as a stuntman and gradually built a name for himself. The important change came in 1988 with the movie Painted Faces, which poignantly told the story of his time at the academy. The film presented the brutal training that shaped both his body and spirit. Even though some of the harsh truths were sweetened for the screen, the sounds of laughter and pain felt all too familiar. His life experiences weren't just a backdrop. They became a part of his creative expression, woven into his life story. During the 1960s and 70s, Hung appeared on the big screen as a child actor, starting with small parts in movies like Education of Love. A chance meeting with Jackie Chan in Big and Little Wong Tin Bar solidified a friendship that would last a lifetime. But it was at Shaw Brothers Studio where he sharpened his skills. He juggled being an extra and a stunt coordinator. Then, an action director's star began to rise in a world that adored martial arts. While he was choreographing exciting fight scenes for classic movies like Enter the Dragon, the 1970s seemed to sparkle for Hung. But trouble was brewing because the industry began to change. Comedy films started to take over, and traditional martial arts flicks were pushed aside, which meant Hung had to adapt. His first directorial effort, The Iron-Fisted Monk, cleverly mixed humor with martial arts, setting the stage for a new genre that mirrored his unique perspective. In the 1980s, Hung became a trailblazer, bringing life to the Lucky Stars comedy series and merging action with comedy. It was a time filled with friendship and teamwork, where Hung, Jackie Chan, and Yuen Biao became idols in their own right. But even through the laughter, the pressure to stay on top was evident. The burden of being a leading figure sat heavily on him. While the industry changed, so did Hung's ideas. His films started reflecting a different society, moving away from the fantasies of the past to show a more genuine and gritty side of martial arts in city life. The high-energy fight scenes in movies like Winners and Sinners became a signature of the 1980s. At the same time, Hung faced his struggles. He was a big personality on and off screen. Still, behind closed doors, he dealt with issues in his relationships and battled with how he saw himself. The 1990s brought a lot of upheaval, including a split with Golden Harvest, pushing Hung to carve his path. Even with doubts hanging over him, he kept creating, directing, and acting in films that tried to reflect his life experiences. But the whispers of his past and the marks they left often sounded louder than the cheers. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Hung started exploring new opportunities. The success of Martial Law, a TV show that showed off his charm and talent, sparked new hope. On the other hand, Bruce Lee, born Lee Junfan in San Francisco, came into a world that felt like it was spinning out of control. His parents, Lee Chuen and Grace Ho, were lost in their dreams, leaving little room for anything stable. Just 4 months after his birth in November 1940, life took a twist. He found himself back in Hong Kong, where chaos was everywhere. By December 1941, war was knocking at their door. The Japanese occupation flipped Hong Kong upside down, dragging the Lee family into a daily struggle filled with fear and uncertainty. The joy of a new life was drowned by the heaviness of just trying to survive, far away from the bright movie sets Bruce would one day know. His family background added layers to who he was. Grace came from Shanghai, mixing Cantonese and English heritage, while Bruce had wealthy relatives. But money didn't protect him from the harsh realities of life. The film world called to him from an early age. His dad's fame in opera opened doors, letting young Bruce step into the spotlight as a child. When he was just under a year old, he was in Golden Gate Girl, already being called Lee the Little Dragon. That nickname hinted at the fierce spirit inside him, even though he was just a kid lost in a big, unpredictable world. By 9, Bruce was acting with his father in The Kid.
阿叔，你而家仲嬲我咩？
阿叔唔係嬲你，不過我憎你啲所謂啊！你啊，成個爛仔一樣你阿長，如果你係生性，你係乖嘅咧，你就而家同阿叔翻去。
But school wasn't a friendly place for him. Struggling with his studies, he switched schools many times, while his heart sparked a love for street fighting that made his parents worry. Worried, they turned to martial arts to help him find some discipline. But getting into Wing Chun was no walk in the park. Bruce's mixed background almost kept him from training under the well-respected Ip Man. Finally, Bruce gets the chance he needs, thanks to a friend named William Chung. The streets of Hong Kong were tough, and he quickly found himself in many fights, one of which stood out: a battle with the son of a powerful triad. Bruce fought fiercely, leaving his opponent hurt and even catching police attention. His mom had to step in, signing papers to promise he wouldn't cause trouble again. But trouble followed him around, each fight showing his burning passion. In 1959, his parents made a choice that changed everything. They sent him to the United States for a fresh start. The goodbye was heavy and full of uncertainty. Bruce stepped into a new life, leaving everything behind. He first stayed with his sister Agnes in San Francisco before moving to Seattle to finish high school. He worked at a restaurant and lived in a tiny apartment above it, trying to juggle work and school. Life was simple, but not easy. Over time, Bruce started sharing his martial arts knowledge with friends, unknowingly setting the stage for a future he couldn't yet see. It wasn't about fame or fortune. It was about survival. He opened his first school, the Lee Jun Fan Gung Fu Institute, attracting students drawn to his passion and skill. Enrolling at the University of Washington, Bruce dove into drama, philosophy, and psychology. But the classroom felt too tight. By 1964, he dropped out of college and moved to Oakland, teaming up with fellow martial artist James Yim Lee to open another school. Together, they began to gain recognition in the martial arts world. Bruce's reputation skyrocketed, especially after a memorable performance at the Long Beach International Karate Championships, where he showed off his all-time famous 1-inch punch, leaving everyone amazed. Yet, not all fights happened on stage. One of the most major battles of his life took place in 1964 against Wong Jack Man, a talented martial artist from San Francisco. This fight was personal, sparked by a challenge to teach martial arts to non-Chinese students. The details of their battle are fuzzy. Some say it lasted over 20 minutes. Others insist it ended in just 3. What mattered was its impact. Bruce realized he needed to evolve, to get stronger and faster, pushing beyond the traditional martial arts boundaries. During those years, feeling like an outsider weighed heavy on him. Between 1966 and 1970, his career in the U.S. began to take off with the role of Kato in The Green Hornet. Even though the show didn't last long, it brought Asian martial arts into the American spotlight. Bruce's skills shone through, even if he often had to hold back when the cameras were rolling. After The Green Hornet, he trained with Gene LaBelle, expanding his Hollywood connections and diving into various projects. Bruce focused on shaping his martial arts philosophy during this time, creating Jeet Kune Do in 1967. Frustrated with rigid traditional practices, he pushed for adaptability and practicality in fighting. He even trained Hollywood celebrities like James Coburn, blending his martial arts career with acting, and starting to influence action choreography in the industry. In 1971, looking for a break from the discrimination and lost chances in America, Bruce went back to Hong Kong. He immediately became a massive star with films like The Big Boss and Fist of Fury, smashing box office records all over Asia. His fame took off with the launch of his production company, giving him creative control. Way of the Dragon, featuring the iconic fight with Chuck Norris, peaked his career. But tragedy hit just when he hit the heights of success with Enter the Dragon in 1973, the first co-produced film by an American studio. The film became a worldwide sensation, but Bruce's life was cut short just days before its release. In that nostalgic moment, the world lost not just a martial artist, but a man who fought through struggles and victories to carve out a place in a world that often didn't understand him. After Bruce Lee's sudden death, director Robert Clouse faced the tough job of finishing Game of Death, a film that Bruce started but never finished. He had already shot over 100 minutes of footage with martial arts icons like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Jihan Jai. The story follows Bruce's character, Hai Tien, as he climbs a pagoda, facing different opponents on each floor. But since the film wasn't finished, Clouse took a daring approach, bringing in a Bruce lookalike, Kim Tai-chung, and stunt double Yuan Biao, while mixing in old footage of Lee to create a new story. When it finally hit theaters in 1978, it contained only about 15 minutes of actual Bruce Lee footage, causing backlash from fans and critics alike. In 2000, almost 22 years after Bruce Lee passed away too soon, something extraordinary happened. Old footage popped up, giving fans a sneak peek into Lee's vision for Game of Death. This find reignited the excitement around his fantastic work. In 1972, After The Big Boss and Fist of Fury had made waves, Bruce was super pumped about a new yellow-faced tiger project with director Lo Wei. But in the end, he went on to direct Way of the Dragon, a movie that showed off his one-of-a-kind style. Sadly, after he died, another project called The Seven Sons of the Jade Dragon was in the pipeline with Shaw Brothers Studio. Still, it too never got finished. Even though these dreams didn't come true, Bruce Lee's spirit continued through scripts that never reached the screen and fresh takes on his ideas. Jump to 2015, when his daughter, Shannon Lee, teamed up with Perfect Storm Entertainment to give life to one of Bruce's original concepts, leading to The Warrior, a TV show directed by Justin Lin. The series kicked off on Cinemax in 2019, and it got a second season, just a small win in a long road of dreams. Then, in 2021, producer Jason Cathari landed the rights to Bruce's unfinished work, The Silent Flute, hoping to make it into a mini-series. Even if these projects didn't see the light of day, they portrayed Bruce's deep wish to push the limits of martial arts in movies, leaving behind a sensational legacy of uncompleted dreams that still touched fans and filmmakers. But Bruce Lee was more than just his films. His friendships and personal struggles really shaped who he was. At his funeral, some of his closest friends and students, like Taki Kimura and Dan Inosanto, helped carry his coffin next to Hollywood stars like Steve McQueen and James Coburn. Coburn, who trained with Bruce and was part of The Silent Flute, gave a touching eulogy. At the same time, McQueen represented the kind of success Bruce admired. His influence crossed generations, reaching students like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Chuck Norris, who learned from him and stayed in touch with his family even after he was gone. Working with people like Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate showed how far his impact spread. Polanski even invited Bruce to Switzerland for personal training, showing the respect he earned in Hollywood. Still, despite all his successes, Bruce had his fair share of battles in later years. Now, let's discuss how Sammo Hung finally reveals the shocking truth about Bruce Lee. It all started when the public began to notice Bruce Lee's impact on actors like Jackie Chan, who had always looked up to him, and even today, you can see that admiration in every film he makes. "I've watched every Jackie Chan movie there is," he often says with a hint of nostalgia. But it's more than just the films that connect him to Bruce. It's the stories of a historic friendship formed under the bright lights of Hong Kong cinema. Sammo Hung remembers their first encounter with a mix of respect and humor. "I recall the first time I met Bruce Lee," he starts, his voice full of admiration. At that time, Bruce wasn't the superstar he'd later become. He was just a guy with a dream of visiting Hong Kong. When Sammo was introduced to him, he felt the moment's pressure. He had the guts to ask, "Are you that fast?" What happened next is a story that still lingers in Sammo's mind. He tried to kick Bruce, but before he could even blink, Bruce had already landed a precise hit. "My foot didn't even get halfway," he laughs, disbelief coloring his words. He'd never witnessed the speed, almost like it was from another world. Over time, Jackie and Sammo got deeply involved in the martial arts scene, but it just wasn't the same without Bruce. He was more than a friend. He was a guiding star, lighting the way for them. Every time Bruce walked into a room, the atmosphere changed. He had a presence that pulled you in, a spark that fired up everyone nearby. Eventually, however, their paths separated, leaving Jackie and Sammo to carry on a legacy that sometimes felt too heavy. They often think back on their struggles after Bruce's sudden passing. The heartache of losing a mentor, a brother in arms, hurt deeply. So, let's not sit idle and learn some lessons from these great personalities, because you all deserve this limelight. With this, I end today's video, but before that, remember to subscribe to my channel and comment in the comments section.